Hello and welcome to the UK edition. Now, earlier this week, a group of Sikh men stormed into a Gurdwara in Limingrispa to protest against an intercaste marriage. Sanjay Suri spoke to Dabinderjit Singh of the Sikh Federation on this very issue.
A quick word now with Dabinderjit from the Sikh Federation. Dabinderjit, what is this aggression inside a Gurdwara over a Sikh marrying a non-Sikh?
I think the issue of the marriage taking place inside the Gurdwara is really around the Anand Karj. The Anand Karj is a Sikh religious ceremony, and what we're saying is that it should only be for two Sikhs. If a Sikh wants to marry a non-Sikh, there's no problem, but they shouldn't go through an Anand Karj. So interfaith marriages are fine, but an Anand Karj has to be between two Sikhs.
By implication, you're saying that non-Sikhs are not welcome at Gurdwaras.
No, I think if, say, a Sikh and a non-Sikh want to get married, if they wanted to come to the Gurdwara, do a kirtan, wanted to do a langar, wanted to celebrate the fact that they've been married, that wouldn't be a problem. It's the Anand Karj is very specific. Readings from the Holy Scriptures around two Sikhs that enter wedlock.
But the Holy Scriptures are for all. Harmandir Sahib is open in all directions to all faiths. Why this practice here that is violative of the essence of Sikhism and of the ways of the Harmandir Sahib?
The Gurdwara is always open to everyone, but even the Gurdwara has restrictions. If you've consumed alcohol, if you consume meat, you're not welcome inside a Gurdwara. If you do not cover your head, you're not welcome inside a Gurdwara. So there are basic rules of any religious institution, and one of them is, from the Sri Akal Takht Sahib, that Anand Karj can only happen between two Sikhs.
But many Hindus, many people from other faiths have great faith in the Guru Granth Sahib. They go to Gurdwaras, even if they are not formally declared Sikhs, they go to express their faith and express their belief, and they go to pray and to seek blessings. Why a sign that they may not be welcome entirely?
I don't think it's a case of they're not welcome. The Gurdwara is always open. I think what we're talking about is very specifically about a Sikh religious ceremony. What we're saying is, why put a non-Sikh through something they don't believe in? No problem getting married.
There's no saying they don't believe in it.
Well, if they
didn't believe in it, they wouldn't be there.
If they practiced another faith or practiced no faith, what meaning can a religious ceremony have for them?
Well, the very fact that they have sought blessings within a Gurdwara is an act and an expression of faith, is it not?
Yeah, I think if you take Punjab, because obviously that's where some Hindu families even had their first sons sometimes convert to Sikhism, I think there are many Hindus and Muslims that actually have a lot of respect for the Guru Granth Sahib. But here, it's not about having respect and recognizing that people are welcome to Gurdwara. It's just saying, do not force people to go through a religious ceremony that actually means very little to them.
But surely, if at all that is what you believe, you could express that belief, but this was a rather aggressive expression of that belief.
No, I think if you look at the situation, last summer there had been a number of cases like this where there had been publicity about protesters stopping weddings, interfaith marriages taking place. And what happened last summer, in August 2015, Sikh organisations, Gurdwaras, got together and they said, look, we need to stop this. So we've now had more than 12 months where virtually no incident like this had happened. And at the same time, protesters had a moratorium for 6 months. So we will not protest, while Gurdwara management committees dealt with the issue where they may have made bookings of people from different faiths, saying, look, you need to educate people, explain to them what the meaning of the Anand Karj are and the Four Lama, and then, you know, if someone says, I believe in this, then actually you should carry out the Anand Karj. If they say, actually, I now understand, I don't believe in this, they can still get married, but not through an Anand Karj.
In this case, did either of the two say, we are here though we don't believe in this?
I don't think it even got to that stage, in the sense of the Gurdwara Management Committee would have made the booking. I think they're on record as saying this was a marriage between a Sikh and I believe a Hindu in this case, and therefore it appeared to be, they would have said this is a marriage of two Sikhs, or people that believe in the Guru Granth Sahib and believe in the Anand Karj. So that didn't happen, and I think this Gurdwara has been described by others as a rogue Gurdwara, in the sense of a lot of this responsibility is down to the management of Gurdwaras. They ultimately run that place of worship. And here, as now has emerged in the last 24 hours, there were people in that management committee that falsely told the police that youths had rushed in, stormed in, brandishing swords, firearms, and had taken hostages. So it wasn't really a huge surprise that the police would send armed police officers into the Gurdwara. I think now what we've said to the police is either they need to apologise for overreacting, or they actually need to take action against those people that gave them false reports, because it was a very peaceful protest from what people have seen on video. And equally, that, you know, all they found in the vast majority of cases is those people that are Amritari Sikhs were wearing their small kurbans.
Davinderjit, are you personally entirely happy to describe a Gurdwara that welcomes all and to bless a marriage between someone formerly of the Sikh faith and another who has expressed Sikh faith? Are you personally entirely happy to describe such a Gurdwara as a rogue Gurdwara?
I would describe a rogue Gurdwara that does not follow basically the rulings of the Shri Akal Takht Sahib and the agreement reached last year amongst Gurdwaras themselves. And this Gurdwara that's in question 6 months ago officially said from their stage, we are not going to have marriages that are between interfaith marriages. So they are very much going against what they have pronounced themselves.
Couple of quick thoughts in the end, Davinderjit. How confident are you that this view represents the majority Sikh view in Britain?
I think you will always find individuals, families and Gurdwaras and people running Gurdwaras that will not like the ruling of the Shri Akal Takht Sahib. But our faith doesn't force people to take Amrit. Our faith doesn't force people to keep their hair. You should. But there are certain lines that you cannot pass, and this is one of them, that this is about respect for our living Guru, the Guru Granth Sahib. If we were able as individuals, as management committees, to question the teachings of our Gurus and the various rulings that have come from Shri Akal Takht Sahib, that would be a very slippery slope.
In the end, Davinderjit, so would you and the Sikh Federation consider and undertake such action again if there's another Hindu-Sikh wedding inside a Gurdwara?
Firstly, it wasn't the Sikh Federation that organised the protest. This was mainly youngsters, mainly young men, that decided to protest.
But would you support them?
We will, and as we've said, we will stand by peaceful protesters as long as they are peaceful and act within the law. What we will always oppose are management committees that do not respect the rulings, do not respect the Guru Granth Sahib, or police officers that may have overstepped the mark, because we believe they've overstepped the mark by keeping the kurbans of those practicing Sikhs after they've been arrested.
Thank you very much, Davinderjit. A lot of people would, of course, think that seeking blessings in the Gurdwara is itself an expression of respect rather than disrespect. But thank you very much for talking to us.
Okay, thank you. I think, though, seeking blessings, you can do it in other ways other than an Anand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Known as the Queen of Melody, Asha Bhosle has been performing her farewell tour across UK. Sanjay Suri caught up with her earlier this week to talk about her journey spanning many decades.
बेमिसाल आशा भोसले जी के साथ दो बातें करने का सौभाग्य हम सबको मिला है। आशा जी, आपकी आवाज़ में एक मस्ती है जो लोगों ने पसंद की, जो निखरी, जो चमकी। उस मस्ती के पीछे मेहनत कितनी है?
मेहनत बहुत है, क्योंकि मैं क्लासिकल गाने वाली हूँ बचपन से। पिताजी ने क्लासिकल सिखाया था, तो उसके बाद ये नया स्टाइल सब लेना एक मतलब परीक्षा थी, और मैंने वो हर स्टाइल को लिया, क्योंकि इंग्लिश म्यूज़िक सुनने का शौक़ था। इंग्लिश पिक्चरों का म्यूज़िक, फ्रैंक सिनात्रा से लेके, तो फिर उनका स्टाइल क्या गाते हैं, एल्विस कैसले गाते हैं, ऐसे करते करते मेरे अपनी आवाज़ को मैंने अलग अलग तरीके से गा के हिंदी में बिठाया, तो वो नया स्टाइल बन गया।
तो आजकल जो गाने हैं आदमी सुनता है और भूल जाता है, इसकी क्या वजह है?
इसकी वजह ये है कि बोल अच्छे नहीं होते हैं, फिर ट्यून भी नहीं अच्छी होती है, फिर गाना भी बहुत फास्ट तरीके से रिकॉर्ड होता है जिसमें फीलिंग्स नहीं होते हैं। फील करके जो गाना होता है वो नहीं होता है, इसीलिए गाना बहुत दिन नहीं चलता है, 3 महीने 4 महीने चलते हैं।
तो आजकल गाने टुकड़ों में रिकॉर्ड होते हैं, फिर जुड़ जाते हैं, उससे फ़र्क पड़ता है?
जी हाँ, उससे बहुत फ़र्क पड़ता है। फीलिंग, कोई भी चीज़ एक साथ होती है वो अच्छी होती है, तो वैसे नहीं होता है। आजकल हमारे यहाँ जो गाने वाले हैं, मैं भूल गई थी अभी थोड़ी देर पहले, जो जावेद अली करके जावेद अली मेरा ख्याल है कि हमारी इंडस्ट्री में सबसे बड़ा सिंगर होना चाहिए, क्योंकि वो बहुत ही अच्छा गाता है, क्लासिकल भी गाता है और लाइट गाता है। तो मैं थोड़ी देर पहले भूल गई थी, वो मेरे साथ गाने वाला भी है, बहुत अच्छा गाता है वो।
तो गाने के साथ आजकल खाने की बात भी उभर के आ रही है ऊपर।
हाँ हाँ, मेरे रेस्टोरेंट्स बहुत हो गए हैं बहुत सब जगह पे हैं, और मैनचेस्टर भी में है और बर्मिंघम में भी है, दुबई, अबू धाबी, एवरीवेयर, सब जगह पे है। एक मस्कत छोड़ा तो सब जगह है। तो खाना बनाने का शौक़ था बचपन से, तो खाना बनाते रहे, आज भी बनाती हूँ, आज भी बनाती हूँ।
आखिरी बात आशी जी, ये कि वो आजकल आपके गानों की नकल बड़ी होती है, बीच में कोई म्यूज़िक रिदम मिला लोग है वो चलाते रहते हैं, रिसाइकिल करते रहते हैं, तो आपको लगता है कि जो उसकी शुद्धता है उसमें फ़र्क आ रहा है?
असल अगर देखा जाए तो सिर्फ गाने की शुद्धता नहीं गई है, सभी चीज़ की गई है, खाने की गई है, पहनने की गई है, हर चीज़ की बातचीत, बड़ों से कैसे बात करना ये भी लोग भूल गए हैं। तो इसीलिए मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हर चीज़ थोड़ी डिटोरेट होती जा रही है। तो म्यूज़िक भी वैसे ही हो रहा है, पर हर चीज़ का एक साइकिल होती है, तो फिर घूम फिर के हम लोग वहीं आ जाते हैं। तो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता मेरा ख्याल है सुधर जाएंगे फिर से।
आपकी बदौलत शुद्धता कायम है। आशा जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
We'll take a short break now, but coming up, Sanjay Suri speaks to the current US ambassador to the Holy See.
Oh, is a wonderful, deeply spiritual woman who had a great sense of humor.
A sense of humor for doing what she did.
Oh, yes. And she's when you met her, she spoke to you. And she kind of captured you.
Welcome back. Now, Ken Hackette, who is the current US ambassador to the Holy See, was also very close to Mother Teresa. Sanjay Suri earlier caught up with him and spoke to him about her canonization and the Christian world's reaction to this.
Ambassador Hackett, thank you so much for talking to us this afternoon. Now, you knew Mother Teresa quite closely. You met her several times on several occasions.
Many times, yes.
What do you remember her as?
Oh, as a wonderful, deeply spiritual woman who had a great sense of humor.
A sense of humor for doing what she did.
Oh, yes. And she's when you met her, she spoke to you. And she kind of captured you. I remember one occasion, I happened to be in New York, and she visited my office, and on the way in, I was introduced to her, and they introduced me as the young man who's in charge of the money for Africa. And she said, "Oh, about my project." And I, being a young 26-year-old, I said, "Oh, Mother, we're studying it." And she said, "That's all right, son. God will provide." And I felt like a lightning bolt came right through me. So she knew how to get you,
Right. Past all the bureaucracy.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. You speak of her sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, given all the grim tasks, she not only confronted, but confronted very closely and dealt with and fought all her life. What was this humor like?
Well, I don't mean a jokester. I mean someone who is, as I said, deeply spiritual, but also alive with joy. And she passed that on when you met with her. But she could actually give you a little tweak too. She could give you a twist, and you knew that she knew exactly what she was doing.
Did she speak to you about her work in Kolkata?
Not a lot. Where I was engaged more with her is helping her and the Missionaries of Charity expand around the world. So we helped her move into Yemen. We helped her move into Ethiopia, Afghanistan, Haiti. I think we helped her in Cuba.
Why is that?
Well, she wanted to take the message and the good work of the Missionaries of Charity beyond Calcutta, around the world. And indeed, she has done that very effectively. Sadly, when I was thinking about us helping her start operations in Yemen, most recently there was this very serious attack on the Missionaries of Charity. And in fact, there's one Indian priest who's still held hostage in Yemen. So it's sad. But there they are, working on the front lines, being with those who are left aside, those people who are maybe don't have anybody to care for them. And that's where Mother wanted her Missionaries of Charity to be.
Now, you were here for the beatification and you were here for the canonization.
I am.
How big an event is this? What does it mean to the Catholic world?
Well, I think one could see the canonization of Mother Teresa as long in coming. There was a saint in our midst, and so many people from India to Ethiopia to Afghanistan to New York met her. So we can all say, we met a saint. That is so important. She, a couple of weeks ago, I was going over some of my old notes about her coming to my office in Baltimore, and we're meeting somewhere else in the world. And every time we put on social media, or even before it was social media, on print media, something about Mother Teresa, in my former job at Catholic Relief Services, I would get all kinds of requests from volunteers, and can I give money? And, you know, she touched people's heart, particularly young people.
You know, you speak of the canonization a long time coming, but there's a process, and there's almost, sounds odd, if not half blasphemous to say this, but a test for sainthood, and someone has to be convinced that, you know, this person we are going to consider a saint has performed miracles. Now, there have been two cases people speak of, one with a tumor in Calcutta, one with a tumor in Brazil. There are some sort of medical questions raised about these claims. So is this kind of test itself a bit dated? After all, it goes back to medieval times. Wasn't her life itself a miracle?
You hit it perfectly. Her life was a miracle, and she was just a miracle of joy and compassion and concern, and a model for us all. And so I agree with you. I don't know anything about this miracle or that miracle technically, but it
doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters. She's a model for all of us. Not all of us can go and work in the most difficult parts of Calcutta among the dying and the sickly, but she can do it on our behalf, and that's what her nuns do. My wife volunteers with the Missionaries of Charity, as so many people do. She volunteers with them here in Rome. And what was she doing as a volunteer? Working in a home for homeless men, cutting carrots and food just to prepare a meal for them. Simple. But it was, you know, it's a model of goodness and charity and mercy. And this is the year of mercy.
You know, we speak of the year of mercy, but I think at times like this, the very idea of mercy seems to become dated, a bit outdated. It sounds sort of patronizing, and it sounds like violative of the socio-economic mantra for development that we must all adopt. So, what do we mean by mercy? Is this patronizing? Is the church out of tune with the times, or are we out of tune with the noble idea of mercy?
I would say the latter. We are out of tune with that wonderful idea of mercy, compassion, caring. And Pope Francis has talked about this. Mother Teresa modeled it. And that's one of the wonders.
The field hospital.
The field hospital.
How does that image work for you? What does that mean to you?
Oh, it is out on the front line, wherever that front line is, whether it be in Yemen, Afghanistan, Bronx, New York, or any place where people are kind of living on the edge and in need of something more compassionate than just a clinical type of assistance. That's what they offer. In fact, just around the corner from where we are here, there is a Missionary of Charity place that every night there are about 100 men and women from the streets who come for food. It's simple. It's not deep social justice and social change. It is just pure concern, compassion, and charity and mercy shown.
But the two need to go together, don't
Oh,
they?
well, Pope Francis talks about that.
Yes.
He talks, there's no contradiction between mercy and justice.
Yes.
They go together.
Yes. So while there's development and you need it,
Absolutely.
someone needs to be on the front line with those people who are desperate here and now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And she modeled that action. And,
But she's had her critics.
oh,
And surely, and one line of criticism that is popular, to put it that way, is that her primary purpose was to spread the faith rather than serve the needy. Are they two separate?
I'm sure she would say no. Spreading the faith is taking care of the needy. That is what you should be doing. So I don't think there's any contradiction there. Yes, people want, they want to find something wrong with her life. Was all the money tracked correctly? Well, all this kind of stuff. Come on. She was who she was. And she was out there. And her sisters, her nuns, those in her community, those priests, still model that behavior. And it's terrific.
Speaking of her faith, she had apparently, according to several letters that were published, a crisis of faith herself, to the extent she even perhaps doubted the existence of Jesus Christ. Now, how do we see this? Do we see this as something, embarrassing for belief? Or does that make her somehow a little more human?
I don't feel competent as a theologian or anything else to delve into those deep faith matters. But my lay look at that type of thing says, yes, she was probably a very deeply spiritual woman that felt things very close to her heart. And so, yeah, you have, if you're not very profound, you probably don't have profound thoughts. And she was a profound person in her simplicity.
When we think of Mother Teresa in the Indian context, and that really was primary for her, even though she sped out, and we think of a lifetime committed to, devoted to fighting poverty, you cannot but think also of Gandhi.
Yes.
Were they in a sense parallel? Did they have parallel missions, even parallel ways?
It seems so. I'm not a historian either, so I don't know exactly the connection. But she couldn't but model some of her behavior after Mahatma Gandhi. That simplicity, the power of it, I think that was her as well.
Ambassador Hackett, thank you very much once again for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you, Sanjay. It's a pleasure.
That's all for this week, but do keep watching News 18 for news and daily updates.